Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Hometown Heroes. I'm Mike Kenichi, and I'm honored tonight because we have with us a longtime educator for the Shelton school systems, and now she's a health coach, which we're going to dig into a little bit later in the program. It's my honor to have on Lyn Gilbert. And Lyn, I want to thank you for coming on tonight.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
So, Lyn, let me ask you first off, talk to me about growing up in the town of Seymour. I mean, the Valley was a strong community back when you were a kid. It was a very exciting time to be a part of the Valley. So just talk about Seymour, Connecticut a little bit.
Yeah, well, actually, I did go to Seymour High School, but I actually grew up in Oxford. When I went to Seymour High, Oxford did not have a high school. So I know I'm dating myself right there. But growing up in the Valley was a great experience for me. My family, both sides, my mom and dad's side, both from the Valley, actually both from Derby. We moved to Oxford probably when I was about 2 or 3.
Right.
My parents had opened a deli actually in town with my grandfather. And so I spent a lot of time there too, just working with my grandfather and also to my parents and everything. And, my first jobs were all right there in Oxford and Seymour. I worked at Jackson's Cove growing up.
Yeah.
I worked the door there, and then I also I worked for Sanka for a little while as well, which was a great experience and really kind of piqued my interest into pursuing education. So it was great.
Right. Now, let me ask you, Lyn, we'll talk about your son in a little bit. He's a big hockey player, but were you into sports as a kid? Were there any sports you liked as a kid, or were you more about like the books too, or what was it?
It was a mix of both. I mean, I was a huge Whalers fan as a kid.
Right.
I was lucky enough, to go to the games sometimes, which was wonderful. I did play sports in grammar school, so I played basketball and softball at Great Oak, and I had grown. I grew, I think, before everybody else grew. So it was kind of, like you should play basketball,
Right.
type thing. But I enjoyed it. I really did. Once I got to Seymour High, I did switch over to tennis. I played tennis for a while, and I was a member of the math team. So it was a great experience. Yeah.
Right. And, it's interesting that you're a big hockey fan as a kid because, hockey's very popular now. But as a kid, I mean, not a lot of kids, there weren't a lot of hockey leagues like there are now. So, I mean, was your father into hockey? I mean, how did the love for hockey begin for you?
I remember that, my dad would take me down to Kirk's Pond, right there by the Oxford Library. And, we would ice skate, and I had my own stick and everything like that. I never played, obviously, in a organized sport when it came to hockey. I don't even know if there was necessarily that much of it around. Probably if anybody had it around, it might have been Watertown and maybe Greater New Haven. But yeah, and I guess it just kind of grew from there. The passion for the Whalers and also having those experiences as well.
Right. So I'm sure you were crushed like I was in the summer of 1997 when they decided they were going to move to Carolina. I mean, to me, that was the worst thing to happen for Connecticut in the sports world. Talk about that a little bit, because, I mean, I was crushed.
That was a tough one. Some of my most fond memories are going to Hartford and watching the games either with friends or family. Those experiences I'm so thankful that I do have, but I would have loved to have been able to share those experiences also too with my son too as well. So we're Bruins fans now. It's hard to root for Carolina. So
Wow, I'll tell you, it was hard for me to root for the Bruins as a Whalers fan back in the day. They had a nice little rivalry going.
So true. It's a tough call. So
right. So let me ask you, Lyn. You went to Seymour High School, and you went in the heart of their football tradition. I mean, they were very successful at football. I mean, like, that was the scene in Seymour High School back then. Just talk about, like, what that was like being a high school kid at Seymour High School, because that's where, to me in 88, 89, and 90, those were the glory years of Seymour football.
Absolutely. And, it was just a wonderful experience and great energy, being a student at Seymour High during those times. And going to the games, it truly was an event, and not only, the game
Right.
itself, but beforehand and afterwards. So, and just a positive place to be. It was a lot of fun. So, and it was wonderful to see the success as well. So.
Right. Lynn, sometimes, when you're in high school, you go back and forth. You say you're going to be a teacher, then you say you're going to be an accountant, you're going to be this, you're going to be that. I mean, did you have an idea early on in high school that you wanted to get into education?
I think that education really peaked for me in grammar school. Those sixth, seventh, and eighth grade years, I had some really amazing teachers. At Great Oak.
Right.
And they were just phenomenal. And I found, I had, I think I had Mrs. Grappone and Mrs. Sponheimer over there at Great Oak, Mr. Mealy and Mr. Tilby. And, they just truly made a great impression on me, and it was a wonderful experience to see them in action and how they can, truly make a difference. And, it's funny too, because, going through those years, where you're 12, 13, 14 years old, they're so impressionable, those years. And everybody goes through tough times. I remember going through some tough times during those years, and
Right.
and just seeing them kind of go above and beyond, and just really embrace the idea of the whole student. So.
Right. Now, Lynn, did you know right away going into college that you wanted to do elementary? Did you think about doing high school? I mean, what was the goal when you entered? You went to Western, correct?
I did. In
Yeah.
fact, when I went to Western, I actually majored in English because I did have a love for poetry and just fictional reading. So my first thought process was that I probably would love to be like a high school English teacher or professor or somewhere along the line. But to be honest with you, I know my personality, and I just wasn't sure that I had the management for that. It takes a
Right.
special type of person to be able to handle, middle school or high school students as well. And I just felt that my personality kind of meshed a little bit more with the elementary grades. I don't know why. It's just a feeling that I had. And so when I did my, internship through Sacred Heart University,
Right.
I did go into elementary at that point.
Right. Now, Lynn, let me ask you, one of the most important steps into being a teacher is the student teaching part of it. Number one, where did you do your student teaching? And number two, would you say that really helped you and prepared you for being an everyday teacher?
Sure. When I did my student teaching, I actually student taught at Rockwell School in Bethel, Connecticut. So I
Oh,
commuted
okay.
from Oxford to Bethel every day. It was a great experience because it allowed me to, it put me almost in that uncomfortable situation where that you're growing. And we all make mistakes, and we learn from those mistakes, and we get better as we go, as long as we're
Right.
reflecting and moving on. So it was wonderful. I met a lot of wonderful people there, and it was great experience.
Right. And I believe your first job was in the Bethel school systems, correct?
It was, yeah. I spent 2 years up there, and then I was actually in Plainville for a little bit as a tutor, and then I came to Shelton. So.
Right. And let's talk about Shelton a little bit, because I believe you went to Lafayette School. You started teaching third grade there. Lynn, so many kids I've talked to over the years had a love for that school. I mean, that was one of the best schools probably in the Valley, not just Shelton. I think you taught there, what, 11 years maybe? Or 9 years. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, sure. I started as a tutor at Lafayette School, and I
Right.
got my teaching job started in. Well, I signed my contract in July of 2002, And I was there until we closed in 2011. And it truly was a special place, and it still is a special place in my heart.
Right.
The amazing staff and students that I met there and got the opportunity to work with there were phenomenal. They truly were. And the building has so much history, and it was just such a unique space that it just truly was a great experience. So sad to see it close.
Right. Now, you did teach third grade there, and we'll get into Elizabeth Shelton, where you currently teach second grade. But you know, those are tough grades to teach because you really, that's where the kids are really starting to learn. The math gets harder, the reading gets harder, and stuff. So I mean, you really have to, prepare these kids every day. You got to spend time at home preparing a lesson plan and stuff. Just talk about all the preparation that goes into, teaching a class every day.
I'm sure, I mean, we start, obviously, we have a lot of lesson planning to do, and but a lot of that really comes beforehand. We really appreciate and rely on the professional learning that we get,
Right.
and then just truly, being able to, to have people model for us and share with us and reflect. It's truly a team effort. And taking the time and the opportunity to, put it into motion, getting into action, and learning from that action,
Right.
it's super important. And, a lot of times even too, with the PL that comes down the line, the professional development, it's wonderful because it's a wonderful way for us to be able to learn new ways to truly reach our students the best that we can. So it's a wonderful thing. So.
Right. And Lynn, I mean, the thing of it is too, with teaching over the years, you've had to adapt. The things have changed over the years. A lot of it, the computer is used more. And, one of the things that you, along with your fellow coworkers, had to do the past, 15 months was a lot of distance learning, which, if nobody appreciates educationers after that, I don't know if they ever will. Just talk about what that was like, trying to adapt to the distance learning and, teaching a class online every day. That could not have been easy for you.
It was different. There was no doubt about it that it was different. It presented its challenges, and and there was also too some good that we saw in it because it was something new for us. And students truly rise to the occasion. And it was impressive. I felt, the way that they did rise. And I truly appreciated that. It was something new, and you try, you learn, and you move on. So for me, it was just another way also too that while we were preparing and getting ready for distance learning, especially too with the different schedules at the beginning of the year and everything like that, and being trained, it was just truly about looking at the situation and truly listening,
Right.
about what is in front of us, and not listening necessarily to respond, but truly just to kind of dive in there and really understand. And that's what I found most helpful. We have a great team at ESS, and it was a good
Right.
experience. Definitely something that I never thought in my teaching career we'd ever experience, but there we are.
Right. And you just allowed me to segue into what I was going to say, next. Lynn, I didn't see you at Lafayette, but I've seen these teachers at ESS. And one thing I always see with these teachers at ESS is the group, they're all a tight knit group. They all get along with each other. They help each other out. And I mean, that helps a lot in being at a school and teaching at a school because, you need to be a team when you're there. And you guys really, look out for each other and really, pick each other up throughout the year. Talk about working with those teachers at ESS.
Sure. And, like I had mentioned before, great experience at Lafayette, but just the same at ESS also too. We've had strong leadership throughout the years, and we still do. It's wonderful. The opportunity to work with Mrs. Belden and Mrs. Weber has been a really great experience for me. And the staff itself, we really do, work together as a team. There are so many different resources that, if I don't have the answer, and 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 that happens. Of course it does. There's a huge team behind us that was willing to troubleshoot and help us through. So it's great. It's a great experience.
Right. And Lynn, one of the things that I'm sure has to make you feel good as a teacher is, you know, when it's you've been with kids all year, and then the end of the year comes, and it's bittersweet for them, and I'm sure it is for you, because they're moving on to the next grade, but they've built that like relationship with you all year, and it's kind of sad for them. And I think sometimes people don't understand that. Just as sad as it may be for the kids, it's sad for you as well, because you spent all year with them. I mean, how tough is that when like your students leave, and like this is it's got to be a little hard sometimes.
Well, you go through, their small victories, their large victories. You work through and hopefully provide them, with the strategies that are lifelong. And it is hard, because
Yeah.
you build those relationships, and you get to know them. You get to know about their families and their pets
Yeah.
and everything like that. And so
Yeah.
it's hard. One of the best things for me though is when I hear, as the years go on, how they're doing, whether it be through, themselves, a parent, a teacher. It's just wonderful to hear the success that they do have as they go through the Shelton Public School system. So, yeah.
Right. And then we all get a little older, but for the most part, we still are, we're recognizable to the kids. But as they get older, if you haven't seen them in about 8 or 10 years, I mean, it's hard to remember every kid and what their name is. So while you may not be able to always remember the name, they remember you. And I mean, as an educator, if they see you like at the gas station or store and say, "Hello, Mrs. Gilbert," I mean, that has to be a great feeling, because it shows that, you made some type of impression on them.
It is. It's so wonderful to always see, students, through the years, and whether it be out and about in the community, or one of my favorite times a year also too is when our graduating seniors come back to ESS and
Yeah.
they walk the halls. Or this year, they kind of did an outdoor version of that.
Right.
And it's just so exciting to see how much they've grown. We love it.
Right. And one of the things you've done too, Lynn, not just being a teacher, you've also been a part of like the mentoring program. You've mentored a few students, where you've taken the time to kind of talk to them, see how they're doing and stuff like that. Talk about that experience, because that has to be a great feeling as well, especially like when a kid, wants you to be their mentor. I mean, that has to make you feel good as well.
Yeah, the mentorship program has been around for years. I remember it actually going on at Lafayette while I was there too, as well. It really is a unique program, because it does allow not only us to be matched with students and really kind of celebrate their small victories, throughout their week or their month or their year at ESS. But also to just to be able to troubleshoot and talk and just be a good listener if need be. And we do get the opportunity, of course, to, talk about all the good stuff like our
Right.
dogs and vacations and what's going on, in
Right.
grade 3 and what's going on in grade 2. So, a lot of good stuff that goes on. And the best part for me too is that I kind of get just a sense too as to what students are experiencing. We have a fast-paced schedule. It's a busy
Right.
schedule throughout the day, but the mentor side of it really allows me to slow down. And it's a more casual role. And sometimes we have breakfast. We have donuts or whatever it might be, and
Right.
it's a lot of fun. So.
Right. And Lynn, you alluded to her earlier. You talked about Bev Belden. And, one of the things being with the Boys and Girls Club, for 5 years, I was at that school with her. She was always so supportive, never interfered, and just always helped no matter when you needed it. Just talk about her and, her leaving, because, that was a change for all of you. I mean, she was always very supportive to everybody. Just talk about Bev a little bit.
Sure. When I transferred into ESS, Mrs. Belden was the principal there, and she was there up until obviously her retirement. I got the opportunity to work with her for a number of years. And I always appreciated so many things about her, but one of the most important things that I really appreciated is I felt that she was a little bit of a different thinker than I was. So whether or not I had, maybe needed advice, or if I had something going on, or if I had a problem or whatever, just to be able to run ideas by her, I always felt
Right.
that she had, a different perspective, a fresh perspective. And I appreciated that very much. I knew I could always go to her, which was wonderful also too. I know that she was supportive of me and our entire staff. But she was just phenomenal, and students loved her, and it was a great experience. I learned so much from her. I truly did. Especially too, going back, my first interactions with her, she was working at central office. Um,
Right.
and as a new teacher to the district, I would meet with her often. So it was wonderful to come into ESS, having a little bit of background with her too as well. But yeah, it couldn't have been a better fit.
Right. And, Jamie Weber worked under her, as vice principal for the last few years. And, Jamie was a good sidekick for her, and she's very supportive as well. So, I mean, the good thing is you didn't have to go through a big change because you knew what Jamie was like and how she was with the staff and stuff. And she just stepped right in and did a great job in her first year as principal.
Really did. And, it's wonderful too, because again, the background that I've had, at Lafayette School, Mrs. Weber had worked there too as well. And
Yeah.
then having her as our assistant principal, our AP at ESS. And she taught grade 2 with me actually also there too. Really
Right.
made a nice transition. And again, same idea. She's got open door policy, and if I need anything or if I need to run anything by her, she's always there to support us. She truly is.
Right. So we talked a lot about your professional life, but now your personal life. I'm sure the greatest thing that you've done in your life is be a parent, and you have an outstanding young boy. I think he's going to be a sophomore in high school. And we talked about hockey a little bit, and he is quite the hockey player. Just talk about your son Ben a little bit, because I mean, he has played in so many hockey leagues over the years. I mean, it looks like he's going to have an outstanding career at North Haven. Is it North Haven High School?
He is,
Yeah.
yeah. When you start your kids, into sports, whatever, they kind of dabble in everything and see what sticks. And for him, hockey stuck. He enjoyed it very much, and and played for a number of squads, close by, Greater New Haven, Gale, West Haven. He's at Hamden right now for the club sport, and he'll be playing hopefully at North Haven High School in the fall. That would be a
Right.
great treat too, as well. So, but when it comes to the sports and your kids and everything like that, I have to truly say that I think the one of the biggest pieces is just the friendships that he's made and the experiences that he's had. Going to tournaments and
Right.
yeah, and the friendships too that I've made, with parents along the way. So it's been
Right.
it's been a great experience. So
Right. And Lynn, one night I think I saw you at a hockey game, and it was a weeknight. I think it was like maybe a Tuesday or Wednesday. It was like 8 o'clock at night. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm out late. But I mean, you know, you're you're starting your day at probably, you're probably waking up 7 o'clock in the morning. You're getting into the school by 8:15, and then you're at a hockey game till maybe sometimes till 9:30 at night. I mean, a long day for you, but I mean, it doesn't seem to bother you. And I mean, you must have a blast going to all these hockey games and watching him play.
yeah, I mean the days are long, but they're long for everybody, and it's just all perspective and making the most of it. I know that everything changes, and you just have to embrace what's happening at the moment, and just find the good in all of it. So and we'll just kind of go from there and see what happens, see what high school
Right.
hockey brings.
And was he able? I know it was a shortened season, but he was able to play for the North Haven team this year, or did he not?
No, he was at Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Okay.
Yeah, he was at Notre Dame for his freshman year, and he had a good experience at Notre Dame. There were a lot of positives, but it just wasn't for him, and he was ready to come
Right.
back to North Haven. we're actually going to pick classes tomorrow. So it should be interesting.
Is it crazy to think though, Lynn, how much like that he's a sophomore in high school already? I mean, it really does go by fast. I mean, I could remember when I saw you that one night. I think he was in 5th grade, and now fast forward, he's going to be a sophomore in high school. I mean, can you believe it's went by so quick?
No, I can't. It's funny. It's like sometimes it just feels like a whirlwind. You think you're like, 30, 32, and then all of a sudden, I'm turning 50 in February. So it's like, it's wild.
Right. Right. He's doing a great job, and I really do wish him the best of luck. And, I know he's going to do great things with that. Lynn, we now have another guest, and we're going to talk about your second career that's really become a big part of your life. And we're proud to have on Todd Angelucci. And Todd, I want to thank you for coming on and joining us today. It's nice to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. And, Lyn's a hometown hero for sure.
Right. So, Lynn, you could kind of, talk about this a little bit. Explain to, the people what you've been doing. This has been probably the last year or so you've gotten involved with this, correct?
Yeah, it's funny because I would say, maybe October, November of 2019, I actually felt like I wasn't feeling so hot. I wasn't sleeping well, and just kind of didn't have the energy that
Right.
that I had, and I really wasn't sure what was happening. I didn't know if I was hitting maybe burnout or what was going on with me. It's kind of a crucial age, for women at that point, and and I also too always in my mind, I always try to keep an idea open as to what I want my future to look like, and I thought a lot about what my next career may be, and
Right.
how I could really kind of use the skills that I do have as an educator, and transfer seamlessly when I do decide to retire into a new career. And it's funny because I knew Todd was doing something that was exciting and positive, and I reached out to him. And I kind of told him where I was at and what I was interested in, and it kind of went from there. So, and really, he was helping people, and it was something that I was definitely interested to myself. So,
Right. And Todd, just talk about this. I mean, how many years have you been doing this? And I mean, how many people have you taught over the years and started this program with?
It's interesting. It's been about 4 years.
Right.
And, I'm a registered nurse by education. I grew up in Oxford, actually. And that's how I knew Lyn. And, I was just burned out, at the bedside. I worked pretty hard, and I saw the end results of sick care for sure. And I was looking for something. And I was on a mastermind group, and I saw it was a nursing mastermind group, and you don't have to be a nurse to help other people, but I just happened to be there, and I saw somebody she became my coach. She was, her husband lost 100 pounds. She lost 60 pounds. And I didn't really think I needed to lose weight or anything, but I was really interested in helping other people. That was really my inspiration. And then I just, she shared with me a little bit about what she was doing, and she's like, you should see what it's like to be coached. And I was really shocked. After the first week, I just felt like amazing. And I was like, oh my God.
Right.
I was a busy guy, working, nursing, it's pretty busy. Didn't have much time. And, 3 months later, I was down like 35 pounds, which I didn't know where it came from. I had these abs, and people were like, are you crushing it at the gym or doing anything? I'm like, nah, I don't really have time. But I just started helping people and sharing a lot of it. And, I've helped, I don't even, probably well over a couple hundred people for sure. And, it's just really great to watch people's lives transform when they just start taking care of themselves a little bit, and I'm a firm believer that you take care of one part of your world, other parts start to improve. So it's been a joy, and Lyn's been a joy for sure, because she reached out, and wanted to learn a little bit. And, You know, if you ever see her on social media, it's like, you know, she transformed for sure in a lot of different ways, you know.
Right. And I'll ask you both this because you both could answer this. It's a change that you have to be willing to commit yourself to. And I mean, was it difficult in the beginning for both of you, or when you're seeing results right away, I'm sure it just motivates you to keep going, correct?
Well, I mean, for me, I think that I think that I probably was having the conversation in my mind way before I even reached out to Todd that, maybe something was up with me, or, am I taking good care of myself? Am I ready for some sort of change? So I do think that I was having that conversation overall for a while. And I do believe that it absolutely has a lot to do with your mindset. You have to be
Right.
ready. And I think that I was at the point where I was ready to be coachable, and really just kind of tune in, listen in, and and see what changes I could make, because I wasn't feeling myself, and
Right.
I wanted to be able to find a way to find my best version of myself, and just feel good about getting up every day and doing what I do. So.
Right. Now, Lynn, let me ask you, I know you said you weren't feeling good about yourself and stuff. I mean, did you not like your appearance too, or was it just you felt run down all the time?
I think it was a little bit of both,
Right.
for sure. And like I said, being in my later 40s at that time, I'm still in my later 40s, but in those later 40s, I really wasn't sure what it was that was going on, and I had a conversation with my doctor and everything like that, and I basically wasn't really responding well to stress anymore, and I was having some pains in my legs and some numbness, and I
Right.
just think a combination of a combination of things that I kind of worked on. It made a difference, definitely.
Right.
Hmm.
Now, Todd, I think a lot of people get this idea that losing weight, a lot of it comes from exercising, but I think that's kind of a myth in a way, because I really think it comes down to what you put inside your body. And, if you eat right, I mean, you need to exercise, if nothing else, just to, keep your, health in good check. But for the most part, it's really about what you eat that is going to determine whether you stay fit or not, correct?
100%. Like abs are created in the kitchen for sure. You know, I think they're sculpted a little on the floor, but more so in the kitchen. It's really about what you're eating. And I think, you can't, especially as you age, like I'm close to 50 now, it's you can't out exercise even a moderately bad diet. You know what I mean? If you
Right.
have a bad one, it's game over for sure. It's just hard. And people think that, and that's why I think people don't start, is because they think they have to do all this stuff that they don't have time for.
Right.
And so, it's interesting. I think exercise is really important for movement, for strength. I was listening to a guy today and he says, like, the best gift you could give yourself is a pair of sneakers and just to move, because we've become so sedentary in our life. Like just walking, a lot of us don't even do basic movement, but honestly, the weight loss really comes, I'm a believer it's almost 90% diet.
Right.
So
And one of the things that's really remarkable about both of you is, Lynn, I think you really started this program in the heart of the pandemic. And Todd, I mean, one of the most difficult things was trying to keep the weight off, because nobody could go anywhere. We were stuck at home all the time. So that's not easy to just, not, keep the weight off and stuff. Talk to me both about like how you were able to do that, and how were you able to have the willpower, especially when you weren't able to go anywhere really.
Well, I think for me, it was just the accountability piece, having Todd as my coach, and just kind of staying connected to people who are kind of on a similar journey as myself really kept me accountable. And that was something that I truly needed, especially, during the pandemic time, because, there was a lot of isolation. So being connected, being accountable, knowing that someone was going to check in with me, and and just say, hey, how's it going? What's working? What's not working? And if something wasn't working, how could we fix it?
Right.
So that was a huge piece for me, just knowing that I needed to be accountable, not only for myself, but also too for, for my group.
Right. And Todd, let me ask you, and I'm sure Lynn can answer this as well. I think I've talked to you both, before about this, and I think you eat 6 small meals throughout the day. So let me ask you, I mean, I'm sure that you don't have as big an appetite as maybe you would if you only ate like 1 or 2 meals. So I think the 6 meals a day, even though they're small meals, they really, help you, and, you're not as hungry come 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, the whole idea is to kind of get your metabolic machine going and kind of fuel and burn and fuel and burn. And by not having wide dips and spikes in your blood sugar and your insulin levels, it helps control your cravings and hunger a lot better.
Right.
Now, you just can't eat donuts every 2 to 3 hours. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
got to have the right food at the right time. That balance really matters. And, there's a lot of confusing information out there, for people. And I think that's kind of the biggest challenge is they come to me and Lynn as well, kind of hopeless, like not sure things to believe. But after like a week or two, they're like, oh my God, like I feel so much better and all of that. And that starts to build the momentum because you start to get results really right away. But the mindset piece is the biggest piece. I tell people that all the time. It's the muscle you got to work is the one between your ears 100% of the time. So,
Right. And Lynn, let me ask you, do you do this 7 days a week? I mean, is there a day where you might cheat, if you go out with your son somewhere, or do you keep this going 7 days a week? Let's talk about that a little bit.
For me, it's just, I think that the whole journey and the whole process for me has just made me more aware as to what it is that I'm fueling my body with. I don't necessarily, deny myself on special occasions or anything like that. It's just making choices, being able to take some time to stop and just challenge the thought that I have about what it is that I'm thinking about having, or, and then just choosing and thinking, is this going to get me to my ultimate goal? That's a big piece for me as well, and even too, it doesn't just transfer to what it is that I'm putting in my body, but also too, sometimes even the thought of, maybe should I lay on the couch and watch TV, or, maybe should I do some healthy movement, and
Right.
it's just being more mindful for me, I think, is what it is. It's not necessarily, for me, it's just definitely about the mindset.
Yeah. Todd, I'll use Lynn as an example, but I'm sure, she's just one of many examples. It's got to be so rewarding when you see that people that you've, coached, and you see how they're doing and how they've, reached their goal and they've been successful at it. I mean, for you, seeing results like that, it's got to be very rewarding, and you can't put a price tag on that.
100%. I'll tell you what started out for me being like, oh, I wanted to create some flexibility and some freedom, which I still enjoy, and really having something to help people in a different way. I have to say, watching people transform and their lives change and it's not just their physical appearance, right? Like that's cool to watch. Like, like Lynn sent me a before and after one day, and I was like, oh my God, like
Right.
she went from like this, which was really cool to watch, but also other people's lives transform. Like somebody got engaged, they met somebody, or
Yeah.
their job is better, because once I think your confidence comes back physically with yourself, like other areas so much improve. It's just amazing. So
What, just to kind of follow up on that though, too, I have to tell you that if you asked me 2 years ago to do this, there's no way, I don't think I would ever do this. Like
Right.
this for me is stepping outside my box, and I've just learned so much, and gained a lot of confidence, and be able, to do new things. And just to be able to say to myself, get out there, get in action, make mistakes, learn from them, move on. That's it. Live your life.
Right. And Lynn, let me ask you, you've become a coach now, and you went from I guess being student, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
to being a coach now. How many have you coached thus far, would you say? And do you enjoy doing the coaching part as much as you did, working with Todd?
Yeah, well, it's funny because for me, I have people at different stages of the game, some that are just starting, some that, are knee deep in, and, it's wonderful to see. I also too have a lot of conversations with a lot of people about health that it may not be a fit for them, and that's okay. I always take away something from the conversations I have. And, it's funny, some of the conversations that I do have, they're continual, and they might be doing something else, or doing their own thing. It's just that
Right.
if you continue to have those conversations, you are continuing to grow and you're moving in the right direction. You've got to remember that your health journey is always in motion, whether it
Right.
be in motion in a positive sense, or are you sliding back in the negative way. So it's always in motion. So to have those conversations a lot of times is the first step, and it's a step that continues on throughout the whole process. So, and the best part of coaching for me is I truly feel is that I learn from my clients all the time. They teach
Right.
me and they keep me accountable, which I love. So,
Right. And Todd, I brought this up to Lyn earlier about, her teaching, then having to go to her son's hockey games and stuff. Now you're a nurse, and one thing, when my mother was in the hospital a couple of years ago, I was there every day, and I would just never see these nurses taking a break. They were going from one room to the other. They're on their feet all the time. So for you to be a nurse all day and then be a health coach afterwards, I mean, you're putting in a lot of time and you're on your feet all the time. So, I mean, how do you do that all the time? Because, I mean, I'm sure there's times you need to just, sit home and relax, but you keep going. What motivates you to keep doing it?
It's interesting. That's a great question, Mike. I have a couple clients and coaches as well that I train and work with that are nurses, and like you could have the worst day, right? Like I could have the worst day, and when I get on the phone with a client or a coach, it totally changes because like it's something about giving back, and it just kind of gives that fuel. There's something about it I can't explain. And I had a couple of my coaches say that, like, I had such a bad day, and then a client called, and we just got in this conversation. She shared something, and it totally turned it around. Because it doesn't, if you do something you love, it's not work, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's really helping people, and I think it's that whole gift of goodwill. What we kind of give kind of comes back, and there's definitely something about it. And that's why, to Lyn's point, and to me, like helping other people keeps me healthy because
Right.
it's holding me accountable. It's like you got to give it away, to kind of keep it, for sure.
Right. And, guys, one of the things that this goes on in the world every day, and it's, a difficult obstacle for both of you, is trust. A lot of people are always skeptical about things, and, they're always, especially something like this, there's always going to be that one person that's like, okay, what's the catch? There's got to be like, there's got to be some type of agenda here, but there's really not. But how are you able to, like, motivate people and convince them this is something good without them thinking that, there's a hidden agenda behind it?
That's a really good question also too. And the way I look at it too is that I never, I never feel, I feel all the conversations that I do have, I always am able to take something away from them, and hopefully they're able
Right.
to take something away too as well. And nothing is I have to say that not everything is a perfect fit when it comes to what it is that we do. It may be a fit for them, it may not.
Right.
But just to have the conversation and see if it is a fit, that is wonderful. And like I said also too, sometimes having those conversations, like even too when I had my conversations with Todd at the beginning and everything like that, it takes you time to kind of sit back, reflect, think a little bit about what it is that you talked about, and whether it truly is a fit for you. Because you want to be coachable, and for us, we want to make sure that we're able to be effective. So and do our job the best that we can.
Right. Now, Todd, let me ask you, what do you say to a potential client who wants to lose the weight and, wants to change their lifestyle, but, they've always got a button there where like, but I can't do this or I can't do that. Because you got to like give them, uh, which constructive criticism a little bit if they're, going to have an excuse. So how do you talk to them and what do you tell them, has to be done in order for them to fulfill their goal?
Well, first of all, they got to want to do it,
Yeah.
for the right reason, and that's the biggest thing. It's finding out why. And honestly, Mike, I find that being healthy is not strong enough. It's not a strong enough why. Like, for example, like, unless you're really sick, like at this moment, are you really, really sick? Then health isn't that strong. It's something that's more meaningful and impactful. Like if they can't walk up their stairs with their kids, or, something bigger than them and something that's important. And a lot of times, and I think people are often afraid to share this, but I'm somebody that's like, be authentic, be your real self. Tell me what it is. Like, hey, I want to, be on the beach, like I want to be in a bikini, like whatever that is for you, that's strong, and understand that you could, if you just take one step. And I share my story. Oftentimes, I was skeptical, but I said, let me just try it. What do I got to lose? Right. And honestly, I hear this from everybody. I just got off the phone with somebody. She's like, Todd, 2 weeks, I lost this amount of weight and I feel great. And I'm like, are you glad you gave this a shot? And she goes, oh my God, I'm so glad I gave it. You know what I mean? But I can't convince anybody, because what people think is, will it work? Will it work for me? And they come very hopeless because there's so much out there. There's so much conflicting information. They might have tried a bunch of things, failed, and all of that. And so we kind of help with that. And the other thing with it is being consistent and out there. Like if I'm out there, like people have been watching me for a few years. I had people I talked to like 2 years ago, and all of a sudden they'll send me a message. All right, Todd, I got to do this. You know what I mean? Because you're just out there living and being healthy, and they just want to see that a person's doing that for sure.
Right. And I think the most important thing, though, Todd, and I think Lyn would agree, is they have to be willing to change something in their life. You cannot just say, I want to do this, but not be willing to change anything. You have to make changes or it's never going to work.
Right. I tell people that all the time, and I'm not afraid to hold it back. I'm like, this is probably not a good time for you, because if you treat it like anything else that you've done before, it's going to be like anything else you've done before. And I'll tell people all the time, it works 100% of the time. You can't fool it. You follow it. Right. And so the other thing I tell people, and this is where the growth is the obstacle is the way, right? If you don't quit, you'll learn more about yourself in life than anything. Right. Because that's where you learn the stories you play in your head, for sure.
Right. Todd, let me ask you this. Whether it's a health coach, nurse, whatever it might be, what has been most rewarding to you in your career? What's the one thing that you could say, you know what, this is what I'm most proud that I did?
In my career, honestly, that's a good question. There's a couple things that I was, probably most proud of. I was in the military, and I was a medic, and, taking care of the troops. And, I was in a combat unit. I didn't see any combat at the time, but I was trained with a combat unit. So it's really about being like kind of one step ahead so that you could be there for your troops, for sure. And really just kind of helping people, That's kind of and I think that's what we're here on this planet for, is to give back and help each other out, for sure.
Right. And Lyn, I think you've been teaching 22 years now. You're going into your 23rd year, so you've had a lot of students over the years, a lot of great memories, probably a lot of, precious moments as well. What would you say has been the most rewarding thing in your career? If you had to pick one thing, what would you think it is?
Oh my gosh. I don't even know. I think overall it's just, For me, I honestly believe it's just the genuine relationships that I've made, not only with my students, but with my parents and, staff.
Right.
They are a part of my world. And, the positive experiences and the tough times too, as well, and just being able to communicate and just learn from them, for me, is what it's all about. So.
Right. Before we go, and I'll ask you this first, Todd, what advice would you give to, someone who's, not necessarily trying to make a health change, but just trying to make a change in their life in general? What's the best advice you could offer to them if they want to go forward with that and make that happen?
I think the first thing I'd say is really figure out what you want.
Right.
Like, I think people don't really think enough about what they want, and it's just life just takes them. You don't have really what you want in a plan. And the one thing is, and I say this, a lot of my coaches know I say this, is do hard things. Do
Right.
hard things every day, because if you're doing things that are comfortable, you're not growing, for sure. So.
Right. And Lyn, what kind of advice would you offer somebody? I mean, whether it's past students, current students, friends, your son, what would you offer to them?
For me, I feel that, the best piece of advice I could give is, don't live your life on the sidelines. Get into the center of the arena and live it. That's where you want to be. You want to be able to go ahead and experience it. It goes fast, so just be in
Right.
the moment. Be in the moment.
Right. Well, this was a lot of fun. First off, Todd, I got to meet you a few months ago. You're a really great guy. You've been helpful to me. I really do appreciate it. And I really do applaud the work you do because, you've helped a lot of people and your intentions are nothing but the best. And I really do congratulate you on everything you've been doing.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on. Sure.
No problem. And Lyn, I've known you, I think 5 or 6 years now. And I mean, I watch you every day. I see what you do with these students. And I mean, I really do admire the job you do. And you are great for kids and you're great for the community. And congratulations to you on what's been a great career thus far.
Well, thank you. And I have to say, I'm looking forward. You guys are coming back to the building this year, right?
Yes, we will
Right?
be back. Yeah.
We're looking forward to seeing you for sure.
Well, thank you. Folks, there you have it. First off, Todd Angelucci, like I said, I met him 3 months ago. Right off the bat, he was very helpful. He gave me a lot of good tips. I've always wanted to change my lifestyle, and it's never easy. You go through ups and downs, but he was always supportive, would always send me a message asking me how I'm doing. He has concern for everybody he works with. His heart is in the right place. And you just heard him talk about his experiences in the military, giving back to people. And to me, he's one of those guys that, you really admire in life and you're proud to know. And then, of course, Lyn Gilbert. I've known her the last 6 years. And from day one, I saw this woman. I could tell there was something special about her. I see the love her students have for her. I see the dedication and passion she gives each and every day. There's not a day that she doesn't give 110% to everything she does. She has been a wonderful educator for the city of Shelton, for the Shelton Board of Ed, and she gives her students her very best each and every day. She's the type of person that we all strive to be and we all look up to. For Hometown Heroes, I'm Mike Kenichi saying good night, everyone.